Thanks for joining our first webinar of 2018. We'll be in just a couple of minutes. We see a lot of people still signing in, so in about 2 minutes, go ahead and get started. Thanks for joining, and we'll get going momentarily. Joining our first webinar of 2018. My name is Dave Hodgins. I'm Executive Director of the LA Better Buildings Challenge. Thanks again. We have a lot to cover today, so I'm going to move pretty quickly and have some time for questions at the end. But it's a year, I think it's going to be a big year for energy efficiency, water efficiency in Los Angeles. DWP has revamped a number of their incentive programs to make them customer friendly, work on some backlogs, get things lined up more and more closely with your projects. We've got ideas about new partner benefits that we'd appreciate your feedback on that we're really excited about. New resources to support benchmarking. As many of you know, we also run the Energy and Water Efficiency Resource Center supporting all buildings on benchmarking, but we've got some enhanced resources for our LABBC partners. It's on developments with respect to energy and water audit standards. I know a lot of people have been waiting for some clarification on that, so some updates on where that's at, as well as with visualization of the data. And what we mean by that is an interactive map to show how buildings are performing, again, to the EBW ordinance, so what's coming with that, as well as events. We have our Innovation Awards coming up in the end of March. Really exciting, very competitive this year, even better than last year. So I'm really looking forward to that. Our technology showcase, as well as some very timely webinars. So I'm going to try to get through all of this and some time for questions. Moving right in, LDWP is going to be, in the first half of the year, is the goal, releasing a new version of the custom performance program. Point is to streamline the application and review processes and redesigning the program to replace ETAP, which was the Energy Efficiency Technical Assistance Program, which was really subsidizing audits. This replaces that with a standardized audit and report format, simple incentive payout, and savings estimated with initial modeling and determined at implementation. There are 3 tracks to make the whole process simpler, depending on how you want to go. What level of analysis makes sense for your purposes, for your projects? Would you prefer a fast track, and I'll talk about this, more of a deemed approach, or if it's more comprehensive, particularly phased multi-year projects, we're going to be modeling interactive effects, a way of capturing all of that, paying those incentives out over time in a very streamlined way. They're still working on a new workbook tool, which will really streamline the application process. So you complete that workbook, and that becomes the Bible for purposes of incentivizing, rebating your projects. So more about the 3 tracks. There's now going to be the Custom Express program, and that's for smaller, less difficult to calculate types of projects, we'll say. Savings approach, and deemed savings means we just assume that if you do this type of project, it's going to save roughly this. We'll not spend a lot of time going back and forth haggling over the specifics. We know it works. We'll pay incentive because we understand that it works. And that's going to alleviate the backlog for smaller projects, because what we don't want is for the time it takes, or what DWP doesn't want is for the time and effort it takes to get the rebate, for that to eat up the benefit of the rebate. Right? That's not what DWP wants. It's not what the city wants. So this is designed to get that backlog and specifically focusing on some plug load measures. Plug load, as some of you may know, is the fastest growing end use energy in buildings. Just the proliferation of devices, computing power is becoming a bigger and bigger thing, and also those vampire loads in off hours waste. So DWP is very focused on getting after plug loads. There would be deemed rebates for things like plug load occupancy sensors, power management software at the network level, high efficiency copiers. All of those things have a huge impact, and again, more and more important, and something that not a lot of folks that I've interacted with have necessarily tackled yet. This can be some low-hanging fruit. For types of projects on the Custom Express, still talking about these deemed types of projects, the application process involves making sure that the equipment installed meets the program specs, which will be published, submitting the completed forms, of course, documentation including the invoice when the installation is actually complete. There does, as there has always been and will be, a pre- and post inspection. So the existing conditions and the proposed and then actually installed all consistent with what the paperwork says. So similar in terms of process for applications, some more simplified in terms of figuring out what's the rebate going to be before you go in and spend time assessing that these types of projects could make sense for your property, who could do this work. So it brings more certainty throughout in the process, which is really helpful. Tier up in terms of analysis is the custom calculated program. There are 2 of 3, and that's for more complex but higher savings projects, and that requires more of an in-depth energy savings analysis. Calculate the savings for that building. So that's custom. Building every is unique. It uses the existing conditions as the baseline, and incentive levels will vary by category. At current program, CP program that you're familiar with does. So HT controls is different than lighting controls, for example. Other examples of the types of energy efficiency or conservation measures that would require custom calcs through this program would be controls, retro commissioning, HVAC upgrades, refrigeration, building envelope, storage, these more complex projects that are not easy to fit into a deemed savings approach. So drawing a line, Custom Express is for the simpler projects where we're just going to assume a deemed savings amount. You know the rebate in advance. Custom calculated is for those projects that need calculated, as the name implies. And we're requiring, DWP is requiring energy modeling or M&V. So an acceptable approach that both sides understand what the savings are actually going to be. Inspection as usual, and again, energy modeling or M&V conducted by the customer, and then a post-inspection. So not dissimilar from the current process, except we're saying energy modeling or M&V, which is a way of streamlining things as well. In cases, new equipment must replace existing equipment, but of course, retro commissioning or adding controls, that would be more optional in nature, modifying existing equipment. And then certain projects like thermal storage, industrial process that exceed over 150 grand in incentives, that would require some post-commissioning and M&V to be prescribed after a certain period of time that the equipment's placed into service. So once you see that the equipment is performing over time and actually achieving the results. and then the incentive would be paid out then. Here, and this is more akin to ETAP. This is the replacement for ETAP, designed for customers that want to go and take really a comprehensive approach to do a full comprehensive audit and base development, model the whole building with interactive effects, and phase out a project over multiple years. This was designed, DWP appreciated the fact they received on ETAP, and is meant to address some of the comments that they heard. So it's simplified in the sense that there's one audit level with standardized audit and reporting forms, simplified incentive payout, and savings are estimated with the initial modeling, but determined at the time of implementation. So instead of trying to calculate the incentives up front, would be estimated as the modeling is done and then paid over time. And then the whole point of this is for customers that want to develop and implement a long-term plan, DWP wants to see implementation too. And so a bonus incentive is paid on the measures that are implemented when submitting a whole building energy audit and whole building energy model with the application. It's recommended for larger buildings with more complex systems where you can get these kind of interactive effects. It would include measures not similar from more measure-based approach, which is the custom calculated, so HVAC, lighting, building envelope, load, dust process, RCX, controls, thermal storage, modeling all of that together as opposed to the individual projects. And the kicker for doing that is that you get a higher incentive for implementing the projects when it's part of a package that's submitted as one to DWP. So DWP wants to see these types of comprehensive projects, and so they're willing to pay a bonus incentive for projects more comprehensive in nature. The application process is similar. You have to submit a whole building energy audit that follows the guidelines that will be published, including baseline, recommended measure modeling, with the application form for each one of the measures that is identified through the audit, meaning that there's an intent, a plan to implement at least one of the measures that's developed as part of the audit. And audit itself has to identify a set of measures that achieve a minimum savings of 15%, bringing the building up to 75%. DWP aligning with the requirements of that 15% reduction, or achieving Energy Star certification, that gets a building into compliance for that 5-year period. And we can talk more about how that works. We've developed some planning tools to see where your building falls, but DWP is really working hard to align their incentive programs with that. So if you are willing to comply with the ordinance, DWP is supporting that and really looking to drive these types of comprehensive projects, paying bonus incentives for doing that. So the application also has to be accompanied by energy modeling. That's got to include the baseline and modeling of the recommended measures. And then the incentive savings are based off of the actual measures implemented. The bonus is paid per kWh saved when the measures are implemented and the savings are MNB'd. So in 3 tiers. First tier, Custom Express, as the name implies, it's express. It's meant to get smaller projects through quicker and gives more certainty sooner in the process on those. Definitely worth looking at plug loads if you haven't already been doing that. It's a huge potential savings, very simple relatively to address, and we've got an express program to get this part incentivized. If you've got specific projects in mind that require some custom calculation, like you're going to add VFDs or perform a commission on your building, the custom calculated approach for that are more complex than a deemed approach would allow. Comprehensive as a custom, which again is for more comprehensive projects where you want to do a comprehensive audit and be paid out a bonus incentive as projects are implemented based on that audit. So to come on this is a preview. This is looking at that in the process right now. The workbook tool is in progress and being vetted right now internally. Again, the point is to streamline processing. So DWP is working hard to make sure that the program teams, engineering teams, everybody is has had a good look, is familiar with this tool, has had input so that it goes into circulation in the market. When you all start using it, conditions go through smoothly. After that, there will be internal training of program staff to work on the actual application processing, so making sure the express applications are clearly processed as distinct from the custom calculated, as distinct from the more comprehensive projects we talked about. Then there will be a soft launch with a small group of applicants. If you're interested in being part of that, please do sign up for our newsletter. Make sure that you get that information. If you have projects in mind, whether those are the types of plug load deemed projects or specific measures that might require modeling, or if you want to do an audit and develop a more comprehensive program, let us know. The external training on the program itself, the workbook tool, the application process, and the program will be fully launched. So hope is to get all of this done in the first half of this year. But again, please do stay tuned. We don't have a specific launch date yet, so we'll be providing information as soon as it's available. LABBC has also been listening to what our partners have been saying and thinking about ways to continue to make the program engaging and valuable for folks. And what we heard and what we've seen ourselves from firsthand experience is that this peer-to-peer exchange is really powerful. To the extent we can really activate our partner network is the best thing that we can do. So what's worked at one building that another building is thinking about, or what challenge that we've been dealing with, and how do we handle that and turn that into a benefit? Like, I've got groundwater coming into my parking garage. What can I do with that so I'm not just pump treating and dumping that water? We have buildings in the network that are now using that water, treating it, and using it in the cooling tower. So that kind of peer exchange is so important. And think about ways to do that. The best we've come up with and we'd appreciate feedback on is to use a private LinkedIn page where LABBC partners have a safe place with no vendors involved that can do that type of peer-to-peer exchange between property managers, between property facility engineers about working. That's something that we're launching this year, and hope that really helps to accelerate or facilitate rather that peer-to-peer exchange. Case studies are really important, but audience is also very important. So is it designed for tenants? Is it designed for internal staff? Is it designed for more external marketing purposes? Is it designed for shareholders? So we're enhancing our case studies, working with the Chamber of Commerce. Their marketing department is really top-notch. So we can customize the case studies for your audience, and we're looking to do a lot more of these. You're doing great stuff, and we want to be a third-party resource to help tell that story to the audience you want to tell it to. Video is very powerful. It's more and more prevalent, these very short videos, how people consume content. We'll be offering free customized video case studies for the winners at this year's Innovation Awards that can use in their own marketing efforts to help tell the story of what they've achieved, and also giving partners the microphone, giving the microphone to you guys on our webinars, at our events, to help share working for you and your perspective on why you do what you do, how you do it, and what's working. So really want to make this even more interactive this year, and hope to hear from lots of you about ideas of how to get involved. To benchmarking, you have all been benchmarking from the beginning. LABBC partners, that's a big part of what we've always been doing as part of our reporting for the Better Buildings Challenge, how things are going, reporting on DOE and to the mayor's office. Now, with the ordinance having gone into effect, everybody's got to do it. We also staff the Energy and Water Efficiency Resource Center, as you know, put together over the course of the last year this comprehensive guide. So if you haven't seen it, please do download it and take a look. This is very, very detailed, has step-by-step guidance. So if you have any questions about how I access aggregate data, do I need to access aggregate data from the utilities, or do I have it through another process? Should answer most, if not all, of your questions, and we're available for the partners to provide in-depth support. But this is a resource that is off the shelf and took a lot of work. So I want to thank everybody for the contributions working with LABBC, DWE, and SoCalGas to pull this together. This is a little shot of the table of contents, basically, but this is the inside of the guide. If you click these links, it takes you to those relevant sections. But if you're already using Energy Star, as most of you, all of you are, the process is different, and that's detailed in here as well. So we'd appreciate your feedback, and please do take a look if you haven't seen it already. For LD partners, we offer obviously support. One of the things that we've put together is this energy and water savings plan. The ordinance is somewhat complex to interpret as it applies to your specific building. So we then put together this energy water savings plan, which basically says, based off of your property's AN, what's the relevant performance period, where you're at relative to the goals and requirements of the ordinance, and then what options, and how that map over to these new DWP incentive programs. Does it make sense for your property to get an audit, or have you already done projects and you've only got a little bit further to go within that 5-year period to hit the requirements? So this is half of what is actually a 2-page document that we can put together very quickly once we have access to your complete benchmarking data. That we can, with us, we can put this together for you very quickly, and feedback has been it's a very helpful planning tool. We've been getting a lot is energy and water audit standards, and DBP has been working on this a lot as well, as you heard in the preview of where the enhanced CP program is headed. DOE has developed a set of tools to help solve all the issues that at the level all the way up to the city level and nationally have been holding back more investment in efficiency, and that's just a lack of standards and ability to do apples to apples comparisons between projects and start coming up with rules of thumb. If I implement this type of project in this type of building, what do you expect the results to be? So there's a standard called Building Energy Asset Score. A lot of cities around the country are already adopting. LA is moving in that direction, and we expect kicking off an effort to pilot this locally. Also include the water audit feature as well, and we will streamline the audit process a great deal. On the back end, this maps into an energy modeling tool called Open Studio, which is an open source free program to use. It's getting broad adoption, and DWP is aligning with that as well. So the goal is that by going through the process, we figure out what are the compliance options for the ordinance that make the most sense for your building, and using this tool to perform the audit, if there is an audit, or the calculations, so over perfectly to DWP's programs, streamlining things. A piece that's coming is data visualization or mapping. The thing that we don't have a specific timeline yet, the city's working on, but showing how each building is doing relative to other buildings, city, and making this information public, just summary statistics published, which is the energy use intensity, water use intensity, compliance status. With the ordinance is a mock-up of what that could look like. Expect that this will come online at some point this year as well. So TD on the exact dates. It's in design right now by the mayor's data team in collaboration with DBS. So I'm on that. So tuned. With this, though, as the title of the slide indicates, is that the information be actionable. And so what we hope will be possible is to automate the process of creating the energy and water savings plans that we are now creating somewhat manually for partners and their buildings, but to build that into the map. So you could simply look at the map and then see, based off your AI and the benchmarking results, what are the options, what's the relevant performance period, and then what are the best options to get there. This building has a score of a 93, so they would be exempt on the energy side, but would still probably need to look at water and get water audit or reduce water use 20%. So you'd have the ability to drill in and see the compliance paths that I have to choose from, and to go further, to resource to actually bridge that gap between, okay, now what, and the rebate programs that are available. So how to actually address solutions for your cooling tower, plumbing, irrigation, what have you. Back to events, we're really excited about our 4th Annual Innovation Awards. It's coming up at the end of March. The finalists are going to be promoted on globestreet.com starting next week. We'll be announcing those. I talked about case studies, PR support. We'll also be providing video case studies, as I mentioned, working with OE to provide some recognition. Finalists will be announced next week on the 29th, and it's really tight this year again. It's really impressive, and I'm excited to see where we come in this year. 4 categories, as always: efficiency project of the year, water efficiency project, overall and portfolio. One of our judges in advance, again, for participating. This is a great group, diverse perspectives from both the utility side, the profit kind of advocacy side, academics, as well as commercial real estate practitioners. So each brings a unique perspective on what makes a project significant, what makes a project innovative, and it's really exciting. I can't wait to see the scores come in this year, and I want to thank all of your organizations for helping to promote the event and help to keep growing it year over year. Later this year, on August 10th, late in the summer, it'll be our 5th annual Building Technology Showcase. Be at the California Endowment as well, and we're rushing the list of presenters this year, working with GSA, that's the General Services Administration for the federal government, landlord in the country, the Department of Energy and their Building Technologies Office, and the national labs, to really piggyback on the annual process that they go through to identify and vet technologies to use in their buildings, which for the most part are office buildings and data centers, and leverage their collective knowledge and research and testing to identify those best-in-class existing technology types that are raising the bar and new emerging high-impact technologies. So we'll be refreshing that list of presenters this year. The format will be the same, so you can come and basically over a long lunch hear from 15 or 20 of these vetted best-in-class technology companies in a fast pitch format. Lunch will be served, and that's free for LABBC partners and building engineers. So it's a great way to get a quick update on the greatest, and tons of work goes into this on DOE's side. And with the DSA, I've been out to DC for their down select meetings, and it's impressive the work that they're doing, and they want the sector to be able to leverage that, and that's the purpose of this event. So I'll start wrapping up, but joining the LABBC is a pretty simple process. Benchmarking the buildings, share those with us. We'll take a look. If it looks like everything's on track, then we'll invite you to join, and we can find out a partnership, objectives that you want to get out of this. Is it awards? Is it specific? Would you like another set of eyes? questions about rebates, and then we'll execute on that partnership. So I tried to go quickly to save really questions. So that will align. So there should be a chat box on the right-hand side of your screen. If you have questions about anything I covered, I know I went fast, please type them in. About timing for the new DWP incentives. DWP goal is to begin the soft launch in the first half of this year and hopefully go live first half of the year. They're in the process of finalizing the application workbook right now and conducting the training. So please sign up for the newsletter, and we'll be doing updates on it as they're available. About the energy audit and water tool. Energy Asset Score was developed by DOE in collaboration with Pacific Northwest National Labs, and the works essentially is it standardizes the data that's collected on the front end, as well as the lists of measures on the back end, and that enables us to do is to create basically apples-to-apples comparisons between audits across multiple buildings. Everything is stored and shared digitally and really simplifies things. So I'll be happy to send you some additional information on that, and we will be also, I should have mentioned, deeper dive on that specific topic as we get further along with the pilot process. So more come on that soon too. Excellent. Thank you. Well, we appreciate everybody joining. We'll be sending a recap of key takeaways from today as usual, along with the recording and the slides in case those with anybody, and as well as an announcement for next month's webinar. So thanks, everybody, and looking forward to a big 2018